Record. Hello, everybody. I'm glad to be here with you participating in this Congress. My name is Ilaria Pagani. I am the Vice Director of Studi sull'Oriente Cristiano. And now I want to present my research about the iconography of Constantine and HELEN as models for Christian regality in the 15th century. For this reason, I have prepared a few slides in order to give you an idea of my research. Here we are. So let me say that I started 3 years ago studying the iconographies derived from the Constitutum Constantini, from the document that is very well investigated actually regarding the iconography for the period, for the medieval period, but it's not the same for the period, the 15th, 16th century. I already published my article on the persistence of the Constitutum Constantini as a sort of iconography for iconographic subjects during the 16th century. Here I put two examples to show you what kind of research I made for my last article. This is the donation of Constantine, that is part of the Constitutum Constantini. And this is the Officium Stratoris. In this case, we are at the end of the 16th century. Both the subjects are represented in Rome in the Vatican Palace. And so this is just a short report to give you an idea. But after this work, my question was why we have this persistence of iconographies derived from the Constitutum Constantini long after Valla or Nicolaus Krebs or the Pope himself, Piccolomini, demonstrated and accepted it was not an original document from the time of Constantine. In this period, at the end of the 16th century, even the Catholic historiography, in particular Baronio, refused to accept the idea of the donation, but he accepted on the other side parts of the concepts, like the Officium Stratoris that we find in the document. So why we have this persistence? And so I started to concentrate my attention on the period that is immediately before, I mean, the second half of the 15th century, in order to find the reasons for this persistence. And my opinion, actually, after this first part on investigation is that we have the persistence of parts of the legends because behind we have the historical role of the Emperor Constantine. So even though we cancel the idea of the donation and the Officium Stratoris and the Constitutum, we have the historical role of Constantine as a model for regality. And this role is investigated, for instance, for the Emperor Maximilian and for the Emperor Charles V at the beginning of the 16th century. But I want to see what happened before. So what is the idea about Constantine as a model? And furthermore, I want to investigate also the role of St. Helen as another source of iconography, as another type of model for Christian regality. I think I can complete my research in time for the publication. So to give you an idea, I put first of all this portrait of the Emperor Constantine on a medal by Cristoforo di Geremia on the recto. On the obverse of the medal we find the Concordia. So in the 15th century, the role of Constantine is the role of a pacificator and fundator quietis. Two words that I use because we can still read the two terms, the two words inside the Arch of Constantine. In the 15th century, this arch was named the Arch of Peace. So the interpretation of Constantine in this moment is that is about the emperor who is in charge of maintaining the peace in the Roman Empire and in the church, and to create a new political order. That's why he was a source of inspiration for the Christian regality. The same type of idea we find in the Sistine Chapel. So we have the arch presented twice to put in evidence the two sides of the Arch of Constantine in Rome. And even in this case, there is a reference to the idea of peace. This painting was made probably at the end of a long period of war in Italy, between the Pope and the King of Napoli, after a long period of a war disturbing the not only the political life but even the spiritual life of the Catholic Church. So again, the idea of peace, the sovereign, in this case the Pope, is the person in charge of maintaining the peace. Same type of reference we find in the Borgia apartment a few years later. We find in the background of this scene the bull that is the emblem of the Borgia Pope from Spain, and the reference to the idea of peace. So the idea expressed here is that Alexander VI Borgia is the person maintaining the peace and celebrating the Reconquista. 1492 is the year when the city of Granada was taken by the Queen Isabella and the King Ferdinando. So that's why I began to investigate the relationship between the iconography of HELEN and the Reconquista and the nation of Spain, because in Rome we have this church, Santa Croce in Gerusalemme. Here we find a fresco painted by Melozzo da Forlì, 1492. The commission was made by the Cardinal Pedro de Mendoza. He was the third Cardinal of Spain, the third King of Spain. He had a very important role in the Reconquista. He was the man who occupied physically Granada in the name of the crown in January 2nd, 1492. And he played also a very important political role to help the career of Isabella de Castilla at the beginning, because he supported the Queen Isabella to reach the power. So he was extremely important. He received the cardinalate and he was the cardinal priest of Santa Croce in Gerusalemme in Rome. And during a work of restoration in the church, it was rediscovered a relic of the cross hidden in a wall. This was a very important rediscovery. The church is the church made in the ancient palace of Helen. So there is a very strong tradition about the cross and Helen in this place. But this relic was rediscovered exactly when Granada was taken back to Christianity and again under the cross. So this was interpreted as a sort of sign. Here we find in the fresco the story of the invention of the cross that is taken from a medieval legend, Jacopo da Varazze. But what is interesting for us is the central element. Helen is embracing the cross, standing by the cross, but embracing, supporting the cross, and on the other side, kneeling beside the cross and Helen, we have the Cardinal Pedro de Mendoza. This kind of central image here with this giant cross, Helen and the Cardinal, is a sort of emblem that is repeated by the Cardinal. In my opinion, this is to offer a kind of model for Christian regality. This is an example taken from the Hospital della Santa Cruz in Toledo. we find exactly the same type of image: the cross, Helen, and the cardinal. This is the external gate. This is a door inside in the courtyard. And if we continue, we see that even before the rediscovery of the relic in Rome, there was a special link between the cardinal and Helen. So here we find the cardinal praying, kneeling before Saint Helen. In this case, we don't find the cross. The cross is only later, after 1492, probably. The origin is probably the church in Rome and the relic preserved there. And again, we find this special relationship between the cardinal and Helen on this vestment in the Cathedral of Toledo, and again on this standard for procession that is again preserved in the Cathedral of Toledo. So there is a special relationship between Saint Helen, the rediscovery of the cross, and the cardinal, and that's why I think that Helen in this case is offered as a model. On one side we find Constantine is the pacificator, the founder of new order, but on the other side we find Helen, because is Helen protecting and rediscovering the cross. And this is exactly when Granada was taken back to Christianity. This is my my line of investigation. I thank you very much, and I hope to come to visit Serbia as soon as possible.